Hey, hey everybody. What's the good word? Who do we got here? Is Keith's here? Hey Keith. Hey Alpha Llama Llama. What's up, Carrie? Hey Emma. Oh, that's good news, Carrie. Congratulations. Oh, I'm glad the end of the week ended up being okay for you, Keith. Mark, hello. You'll have to watch the intro on reruns. Yeah, Tibbs is already, like, frustrated. She wants, at the end of the day, Tibbs likes when me and Maat sit on the couch and watch TV, and she can, like, curl up on somebody's lap, and we're not doing that. We're doing the comic book cool down, so she's frustrated. And then Maat is probably out tonight. They weren't feeling super good, so it's just old Tyler. 2 messages down from the one you're in. Oh, no way. Congratulations, Keith. That's awesome. So I am back from Spain. I went to Malaga, Spain for the first International San Diego Comic-Con stuff, and it was great. I had the convention had its ups and downs. It was their first year, and the sort of the way they planned for crowds to exist in that space was extremely bad. But I met a lot of really nice people and signed a ton of books, and it was great. It was really cool. And I got to do, like, one of my favorite things in the whole world is to be, like, in a foreign country all by myself and just walking around looking at crap. You know what I mean? I love that. And I got the opportunity to do a lot of that. So that was very good. But, like, my whole, I guess on the trip back, I was thinking a lot about, oh, happy birthday, Emma. I was thinking about AI. So this is going to be a weird show. I'm probably not going to draw much, but I might show my sketches from when I went to Spain. We'll see how the time goes. But anyway, so I've been thinking a lot about AI, and if you watch this channel, you know that generative AI is poo-poo. I'm not a fan. But it really got me thinking about like, if AI is if my personal art philosophy is opposed to AI, then, like, what else is my personal art philosophy? So I started thinking about what my personal philosophy is, and I was going to talk about it tonight and see if you guys had any thoughts or input or anything like that. And it's not like I have the kind of philosophy that is, like, set in stone. It's always just a work in progress, and in fact, even calling it a philosophy is kind of goofy. But it's like I have ideas about what art is and how I like to approach art, and I was going to talk about that. It might be kind of weird. Okay, you guys ready? My first idea about art, and especially storytelling, is that, let's see if I can put this in the screen. And I'm just going to write it so that there's something to look at on the screen. Woof. That art is kind of a science. And what that means to me is that, number one, is that when you're making art, or at least when I'm making art, especially when I'm making a story, I think of it a lot like I'm setting up an experiment where I am setting up a bunch of, or choosing a bunch of variables to tweak, and I get the variables exactly where I want, and then I run the experiment. And the result of that experiment is a story. It's like all of the ways that the variables played out turns out to be like they create a story. And then at the end, the result is the result of the science experiment is the story. Yeah, I mean, that seems pretty straightforward to me. But that's something I really like. I mean, one of the things about art for me is that like art is sort of how I engage with the world, where I get a chance to look at something and try to recreate it in a controlled environment in my sketchbook or on the page, or you know, I just try to recreate something that I'm seeing or feeling or thinking, and I try to put it into a controlled situation so that I can sort of look at it. And I think that that's my major use of art, and that's exactly why AI doesn't fill that that need, because AI you don't get to run the experiment. You just sort of like explain some variables, and then it picks other random variables to include, and then it gives you a result, but you don't get to see the work. Like, you don't get to see the data that built the result. So unless you actually create the art yourself, you're not going to ever experience that. So that's my first guy, is that art is a science. But, and this is related, but it feels like it's a separate thing. Now you guys are going to see what a terrible speller I am. How the hell do you spell curiosity? I think that if you have something to say with your art, it's not going to be as strong as if you have an idea that you want to explore. So I think if you want to make art, your art needs to be rooted in curiosity, where you're sort of trying to look. There it is. Like, so much art sort of fails on the because it's forgetting that art is a science, and it's sort of taking the conclusion that they want to obtain, and they're developing a piece of art or a story that shoehorns the viewer into the conclusion that they want them to take. And I think that is I think that makes for really bad art, and I think that makes I think it's not good for the viewer, and it's not good for the artist. So I think that if you, like, I think art should come to a conclusion about something, but the experience of the art should be sort of leading the viewer through that the same search that the artist went through. It's like showing your work. You know, it's like you ran this science experiment, and you need to show, if you you need to have it peer reviewed. So you need to tell them how you came to your conclusion. Ma, it's here.
I am here, yeah.
Is your mic on?
I think so. The lights are on. Not just peer reviewed, but other people get to experience it in their own way.
Yeah, it's like, what do they call that in science when someone else runs your same experiment to see if...
Maybe that is peer reviewed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
Ooh, wait. Dylan highly disagrees, but with what?
With a woman on another YouTube channel who was interviewed saying that in her opinion as a writer, that she believes that all humans don't deserve to make money from their art. Doesn't believe that all humans deserve to make money from their art.
That's an interesting thing to say. Like, I don't think anybody deserves to make money. I think we all just deserve to sort of survive. You know what I mean? Like, and if making money is part of it, but like from your art is like...
If I think everyone in a capitalist society, surviving in a capitalist society, should be paid for their work.
Yeah, you should be paid for your work. I guess it's like, if I couldn't make a living from my art, I would go do some other job. And it's not like, I don't know. It's just a weird statement. It feels like it's loaded to be like sort of rhetorically, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure what that person was trying to say. Anyway. One of the arguments for AI that I keep seeing is that its data set is the same as the artist's influence. This is such an extreme oversimplification that it's functionally a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that, I feel like influences go through such an incredibly specific filter to come out. Like I've sort of stopped worrying about looking like other artists because I literally can't do it. Because I can't be that person.
If AI creators also think that art is a science, I think they're missing a lot of ingredients. I think they're missing critical thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like it ends up being a black box thing where it doesn't... if they're thinking of it as a science the way I am, where the creating the art is the experiment to... and the finished piece is basically your published paper about your experiment. They're not actually running the experiment. They're just like printing their thesis and being like, all done.
They're not printing their thesis. They're taking other people's theses and smushing them all together and coming up with gobbledygook.
Yeah. And actually, I don't even know if this... I feel like the metaphor is breaking down a little bit. I worked for a guy that would rip off other artists knowing they couldn't do anything about it. They could sue, and he would draw out lawsuits until the artist couldn't afford it, so he would win. Ugh. Yeah. God, that's awful.
Heath, you've had some really terrible jobs.
Yeah. Okay, what's my next...
So sorry.
What's my next thing?
Oh, this is every t-shirt company right now.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess this sort of leads to the next thing, point 3, that the making is the important part. And by that, I mean that the process you go through to make a piece of art is the valuable part. The actual finished piece is not even remotely as valuable, to the artist at least, because it's just going through that process of exploration and curiosity and looking for answers to questions. Going through that process is what you actually learn from and you grow from, and that's the important part. And
you're missing the word part. The making is the important.
There we go. Is that a car?
I think
outside?
it's kids with a whistle.
Oh.
But if it's a whistle, maybe I should look and make sure no one needs help.
Yeah, the guy sounds like a real piece of work. It's also about the journey of creating the art. Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. It's the journey that you go on. Because if you don't, it's sort of like the difference between taking an airplane from San Diego to New York versus riding your bike from San Diego to New York. If you make the flight, you'll get there really fast and you will have accomplished your goal. But if you take your bike from San Diego to New York, you're going to actually experience so much stuff and learn so much about America in the process.
And you're going to strengthen yourself.
Yes, you're going to strengthen yourself. You're going to be taking risks.
Yeah.
You're going to be receiving rewards. Making mistakes and bad art is important too. Oh, that's a good thing. That wasn't on my list, but that should be. Okay, I'll talk about that in a minute. Well, actually, I'll put that next. That bad art is good.
Yeah.
There's a quote I got from Carla Speed McNeil, but I think she may have gotten it from who wrote Discworld?
Oh, Terry Pratchett.
Terry Pratchett, where the quote is basically that anything worth doing is worth doing bad.
Poorly, yeah.
And I think, there's a couple ways to interpret that, but I think the way I read it is that if something is worth doing, it's worth doing bad. Like it's worth
making a mistakes and learning from.
Yeah, it's worth failing, and it's worth making mistakes, and it's worth learning from if something is worth doing.
I think that's the key piece, though, that what makes bad art good is that you learn from it. It's a learning opportunity.
Yeah. And it's even a learning opportunity for like an art viewer.
Yeah.
To look at a bad piece of art and be like, oh, I can learn something about the world from how bad that is.
Yeah.
Dylan says maybe that was from Van Gogh. I should look that up.
I think, too, even if you're doing bad art, someone's going to really enjoy the heck out of it, regardless.
I was thinking about that a little bit in Spain. There was like one guy in particular who came up and talked to me for a long time, and he was just very adamant, and it was very sweet. But he was very adamant that I understand how important Harrow County was to him, and he really, really loved that book. And he was so grateful that I had come to Spain and he could meet me. Mm. And it was very sweet, and it felt really, really nice. And I was just thinking about how, like, every book, it's probably not true, but it certainly feels like every book that comes out is going to be somebody's favorite book. Even if it's like the favorite book of the creator's like mom.
Yeah.
It's like somebody, like if you put something out there, if it can find the person, it's going to be somebody's favorite thing. Mm-hmm. And that's really neat. Like it's just neat that you could make something, and if you can get it to reach far enough, it will inevitably find somebody who is like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing. I learned so much about writing from watching bad movies. Yeah, I love actually watching bad movies and TV, and then, well, I don't love, because I don't watch a lot of bad movies and
I do.
TVs, but like thinking about and talking about what makes them bad is actually really a really fun experience.
Yeah, I agree. I get so much growth out of doing that and researching that and listening to experts talk about that. Not only like the process of making it, the visuals, the writing, like the camera shots, not just that, but like, are they using tropes? Are they using stereotypes? Just that kind of stuff too. I learn a lot from. I learn a lot about what I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, Emma, seeing bad art makes me feel um, less. What's that term? It makes me feel more confident that like I can just go ahead and do my thing that's
Yeah.
bad. That's like not as good
Yeah.
as I want it to be. What's that called?
Imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you see like people do multi-million-dollar movies that are some of the dumbest
That
ideas
like
that have
I
ever.
recognize the
Yeah.
mistakes that they're making
Yeah.
that makes it bad art, then yeah, I feel like, well, if that got put out, then I can totally put out my stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the next thing is that I think that creating art has three basic steps. And these steps can be sort of nested within each other, or they can sort of be like they can be macro or they can be micro. But there's three steps. The first step is the idea or the concept. The second step is the design or plan. And the third step is the execution, or also known as mark making. So what this means to me is, like, let's sort of say you have a macro, like at a macro scale. I'm going to make a comic book. I have this idea for a comic, and I'm like, okay, I got these characters, I have this scenario, I have this concept that I want to explore. Then I would go into the designing and planning phases where I'm writing, I'm outlining, I'm designing characters. I'm sort of like coming up with like all the variables that I need to do to put this concept into motion. And then the final step is the mark making, where I sit down and I draw the comic. But you can go, you can take the same three-step thing super micro, where I could be like, I have an idea for the mark I want to make with this brush, and I'm going to picture it in my mind how I'm going to do it. I might sit there and like wiggle my hand and think about how it's going to go down, and then whoop, and then I make the mark. And I don't know why this is so important to me, but this is something I think about a lot. And I guess, well, actually, you know what? I guess the reason why I think about this, and I think it's important, is that it's very common for me to want to go straight and do step C, where I'm just mark making without having a plan or without having a real concept of where I'm going. I skip, like my natural inclination is to skip step B and go straight from having an idea to starting to make marks. And I think that as long as I keep this in mind, I can sort of try to remind myself where I'm supposed to be in whatever process I'm working through. So I like that. That one's important to me. The other thing I was thinking about, and that is that making art, and I'm going to put kind of an arbitrary number, but 80% observation. And what I mean by that is that when I'm making a drawing, most of, like, very close to all of my energy has to be put in to observing something. So, like, a real easy example of this is if I'm, like, drawing from a live model. It's like 80% of my energy is in actually looking at the model and trying to understand what I'm looking at. And only about 20% of it is me making marks on paper. It's like all sort of in my head and in my eyeballs is where most of the work is.
I think that's true for writing as well.
Yeah, I think that's true for writing too. But and it's also like if I'm drawing from my imagination, it's sort of observing what I'm imagining. But it's also but there's also another part to it where it's like when I make a mark, I have to observe the mark and evaluate whether that mark relates appropriately to the thing that I'm observing. So it's like nested observations where I'm observing something either in real life or in my imagination, and I'm making marks, and then I'm trying to observe whether those marks have appropriately expressed what I'm looking at or imagining.
And I don't think you have to have to be I don't think you have to picture the things in your head, because not every creator can do that.
No, I'm not talking about what do they call that, where you can picture the apple perfectly or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of you can observe in sort of more general or less direct ways too.
Did you see Mark Tweedle's comment? Incidentally, did you know Becky Cloonan skipped step B on a project, got 70-ish pages in, and had to abandon it. She's still releasing it as a sketchbook, though.
I have done that so many times. Actually, I think that's why it took me so long to get into comics, was because I could not figure out how to do the design and plan phase of a comic. I always just went straight from my idea or concept into making marks on paper, and without that plan, you just find yourself painted into a corner or just burnt out, or like things don't come together the way you want, and it can be really tough. Why the person liked a series about a month ago? I'm watching 2 shows that kind of remind me.
What are you mumbling?
Oh, I'm mumbling to myself. I'm just reading the chat. Post-it notes are your friend when trying to figure out pages. This is a huge tip, actually. Post-it notes are, thank you, Keith. Post-it notes are like just an incredible tool in breaking down some sort of idea or task or whatever into smaller pieces and allowing you to sort of rearrange them visually without having to erase or rewrite or whatever. You can just have you can have it broken down into littler ideas and then rearrange those littler ideas at will. And it's such a great, Post-it notes are such a great tool.
Yeah, they are.
I should pull out my, maybe next week, I'll find my sketchbook where I outlined my first Lonesome Hunters, because it was all Post-it notes.
That'll be fun.
Hey, what's up,
Hi,
Cooper? So, observation, that's my thing. What else did I got? I got my little notes over here. I think that's like the big thing. I think these are the big ideas that I sort of hold in my head when I'm making art. That art is a kind of science. I hesitate to say that art totally equals science, but it's a kind of a science. Like it works, it has a scientific process. Or I shouldn't say it has a scientific process because it has an artistic process. But there's a process that you go through to go from like a to go from not knowing to knowing. There's like a process you go through, which is exactly what how science is. But art is a little bit different because it can deal with subjective topics more than like actual science can. You should always approach your art, and should you always? I think that's true. I think you should always approach art from a position of curiosity, as opposed to a position of wanting to state a fact. And there are times when saying something explicit that you have in mind before you begin is useful, but without curiosity sort of guiding it, it usually comes out as being sort of false. Making art is the important part of it. The end result is great to look at, and it's a great way of sharing what you experienced while making the art, but making it is what's important to you. Important to me, anyway. Bad art is good, actually. You learn, and all sorts of stuff. Art has 3 parts: idea, design, and execution. And making art is 80% observation. This one, interesting. Making art is 80% observation. Well, all of these sort of tie in, actually, to each other. The observation is like curiosity. I'm sure there's some scientific thing you could find analog for with this 3-step art process. Bad art is good because, you know, if you do an experiment that essentially fails, that's good because you've learned something.
Yeah.
And the same is true for art. Yeah. So, and these are all things that, like, creating AI images, creating AI stories, like just using generative AI and like generally cannot give you, because it's experiential. It's like about going through the process as a human being to make something, and then sharing what you've learned with other people. And AI, like generative AI, doesn't actually learn anything. And just to be clear, like when I talk about generative AI, what I'm talking about is LLMs, large language models, and like image generation AIs, which neither of which are actually artificial intelligences. What they are is statistical, what would you call that? Like they generate something based on statistical probability. So for example, if you ask a large language model to write you a science fiction novel, it will look at its database of science fiction novels, and it will statistically create something that would approximate a science fiction novel. And the same is true for the image generation, where it's sort of like, I mean, my understanding of the image generation is it's a little bit more complex, because you are starting with a blurred out image with noise, and then it sort of does the equivalent of squinting and says, what statistically would this noise look like? And it does a pass at it to find some shapes or some sort of values to understand. And then it continues that process iteratively until you get a picture of a cat with like 4 tits or something. I don't know. But it's all statistic. It's all based on what's the statistical probability of this image coming out of sort of random noise. And this right here is a process that a human being can go through and learn from and grow from. But asking a computer to generate something that is statistically probable is less useful as a human being.
That's not learning about, like, the kind of stuff that we would learn about is how to improve our techniques, but the kinds of things you're talking about exploring is like, how do I live in this world?
Yeah, it's like how am I a human, and like what do I need to know to be a human?
Yeah.
And that's the value of art.
And AI does not have that ability, or
yeah, well, because it can't
interest even.
Well, again, it's like the process is what's valuable, and AI skips the process and gets straight to the result.
Yeah.
And the result is usually actually gobbledygook because it didn't go through the process to develop itself. Art for me is a bit selfish. I make art for myself first. Yeah, I do too. I think I think everybody who makes good art makes it for themselves first. Which is
because you're invested in it.
Well, and again, it's like if you don't go through the process as an artist, the value of what you end up with is significantly lessened,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought it would be tricky. There we go. It's not thought. Yeah, it's neither trying to communicate nor trying to express anything. Thus, it is not art. Yeah, and it's not trying to explore any ideas.
Mm-hmm.
It's not trying to get to the bottom of something. Yeah. I don't believe that art needs an audience. Yeah, isn't other people like, I'm not a worthy audience by myself? Yeah. Although, I will say, there's another part to this that is probably worth adding, and that's that art is created and recreated. Okay, let me try that. I'm working through this idea right now. So when I create a piece of art, I've gone through this whole process of coming up with a concept, working through the design, and executing my plan. In the end, I present this art to a viewer, and that viewer has to go through a process of basically working their way backwards, where they have to look at your mark making, they have to see what you've designed and extract the idea from it. And so, like, like there's that old, I don't know where it comes from. Is it Buddhist that if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound?
I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from either. But it's like if a piece of artwork exists without being observed, is it art?
Yeah.
And I would have to say the answer is no.
Really?
Because the art is created by the viewer. Like, the thing that makes it art.
So if there's art that, like that one guy that just lived in his house and he did that huge work of art with all those children painting.
Yeah,
no one saw his art for a long time, but I think it was still art because it was art for him.
Well, he saw it.
Yeah.
And so that part was art. But like when he was gone, it stopped being art, and it was just marks on the
It was just
wall
paper,
and paper
yeah.
on and stuff. But it became art once again as soon as other human beings came and found it. And began the process of observing the mark making, seeing the design, and finding the concept.
Self-exorcism.
I just want to create beautiful things. I consider myself an artist. I think that that's perfectly reasonable. I don't think that
What's perfectly reasonable?
Oh, what Alpha Llama Llama is saying. I'm not trying to comment on the world or explore things. I'm just wanting to create beautiful things. I consider myself an artist. I would guess, though, Alpha, that you are exploring themes, just maybe not super intentionally, which is great. I think that's great. I think that art actually can just be sort of an exploration of beauty. It doesn't have to be like explicitly political or even be explicitly about anything. I think it can be sort of, like I said, an exploration of beauty, because I think beauty is something that we need to explore in our sort of daily lives, and I think that's important.
Hi, Eric.
Rudak, I bought Tyler's Bert and Ernie drawing because it makes me smile. Sometimes that's all you need. That Bert and Ernie piece is actual art. Still me sharing with the world how I see dinosaurs. I think, Emma, that you're being a little bit disingenuous, because I think that the way you use dinosaurs is not about dinosaurs as much as it is about using dinosaurs as a way to explore the stuff
and express
in your life.
I think it's more than just explore, but also express.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying really carefully to use language that like stays consistent with my views here, where like the expression is a result of the exploration.
Okay.
I struggle with defining tagging as art.
So, I think some tagging really is art.
Some tagging is art. Well,
how to hold the can so that what you mark on the wall is legible, and being creative to make it look like, I don't know, like the letters to have.
Well, it certainly requires skill.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I don't know if I have a real firm opinion about or a grasp on, is like where...
What's...
Like where, like, because just having a skill doesn't necessarily create art, I don't think. But the thing with, like, if I've just imagined what a tagger does, tagger has a thing of spray paint, and they sort of explore the world around them, and they find spots and opportunities where they can make this mark. And I don't think, like, I think the mark can be sort of an expression of, like, you know, this is an expression of my existence. I was here.
Or it can be, this world is fucked up.
Or it could be, yeah, it could be something more explicitly stated on the wall. But there's definitely something about, like, I think tagging, if you want to consider tagging an art, I think you have to look beyond just the marks made on the wall, and you have to think about the design and the idea behind it.
If I'm just putting an M on the wall, that's different than like doing a M that looks like a monster.
Well, I think you're also confusing maybe tagging with graffiti.
Yeah.
Which are two different things, I think.
I don't know that. I'm not in this culture, so I don't know the difference between the two.
No.
So is tagging just like
I don't know.
text?
Alphalama just what?
Is tagging just text, but without?
It can be a picture.
Okay.
It can be. There's a lot of different ways of tagging. Alphalama says holding a pen and scrawling your name on a signal box doesn't cross the threshold. And again, I think that's an argument of like high art and low art, which is something like I don't really think that there is such a thing. Like I think the thing that I don't really know where I land on this. I'm still sort of like thinking about it, but like, is a dishwasher an artist? Like
a gardener can be an artist.
A gardener,
for sure.
like, yeah, I feel like there's ways that you can approach almost anything in human experience. Like, I'm talking really specifically about being a human being on the earth, especially in a society where it's like you can do things, you can make marks that you've designed and are based on an idea. And do it as a dishwasher.
Hi, Gavin.
You know what I mean? And it's really possible that like other people might not recognize what you're doing as art, but that's not what makes, like, other people recognizing it isn't a thing that I think makes art art.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Although I think that at least one person has to recognize art as art for it to be art. And that can be the creator. It can be someone, like the creator can make art and not realize it, and someone else can look at it and be like, wow, that's art.
Yeah.
You know?
Gavin says that they think that it comes down to intent. Signing a document does not carry the same intent as tagging a wall.
That's interesting, because again,
it could, tagging a wall, or again, I don't know the difference between tagging.
Tagging is like, but when someone writes blooper, and they go around town and they just are always writing blooper.
Yeah.
And their tag name is blooper.
So that would be like signing a document, pretty much, or just writing the word blooper on a paper all over the place.
It's not like signing a document, because signing a document has, like, as Gavin was saying, has an incredibly different intent than tagging. Yeah, I don't know. It's something, like I said, I don't quite know what I feel about that. And I guess that's something nice, is that I don't have to know how I feel about it, because
we can explore
I get to explore it.
I think because of that, it has to be art, even if I mostly hate it.
Gavin says, I also had reviews saying my artwork wasn't art, so yeah.
So Mark says, tagging is expressing a value judgment about your environment and your place in it. It's a political statement.
I think that's probably valid. And I think that a lot of things, it can be a political statement, even if the person making it doesn't think it's a political statement.
Someone else could look at it and go, that's art.
Dylan says, the word art is a bit of a nebulous word for me. Maybe a dentist is an artist, a baker is one, a mechanic maybe.
I think a dentist could be an artist. They have to sculpt. There are dentists that sculpt the teeth that go in your mouth.
Well, like, if this is, I keep coming back to number 5 here. Art has 3 parts: idea, design, execution.
And a dentist can do that.
Which, like, this could actually work for, like, changing a carburetor. Where you're like, your idea is that you need a new carburetor. You plan how you're going to remove the old one and put in a new one. So you go to the store, you buy the thing you need, and you figure out what wrenches you need. And then you actually remove the old carburetor and you install the new one. Is that art? I think what it comes down to is maybe what value we place on the idea or the concept.
Oh,
so, like,
we need to make a difference between craft and art, says Alpha Llama Llama.
That one I think I disagree with.
Really?
Yeah, I think I would disagree with that right off the bat.
You think craft and art are equal, and that all craft is art?
I think that like I was just saying a minute ago, I think a lot of it comes down to what value we place on the idea being expressed. Like my example of changing a carburetor, we don't put a lot of emotional value in that idea of changing a carburetor on your car.
Mm-hmm.
And like craft, because craft can be all the way from carburetor changing to architecture. You know, like there's a level of craft. I guess, like, when I hear the word craft, what I think that means is sort of an execution of skill or an expression of your skill. It could be like toll painting. It could be knitting.
But then the art would be the exploration.
I think
of the idea.
I think it becomes art maybe when there's an idea, sort of a larger idea driving the thing. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's a really interesting question. Because again, it's like a value judgment. It's like, is this idea important enough for me to call it art? Or for some people, is this idea so unimportant that I would call it art? Or not, you know?
Taking out one prefabricated carburetor
and replace it with another. It's a skill.
Pre-manufactured carburetor is not art, it's a skill. Mm-hmm. If you were the designer of that carburetor.
Well, is it a skill if, for example, you had your car, and you had the car had a carburetor, and you thought to yourself, you know what? I would like this car to behave in a very specific way.
So problem solving.
Wait, hold on.
Okay,
so
sorry.
I would like this car to behave in a very specific way that expresses what I want it to express when I press on the gas pedal. And then you use your skill and knowledge about carburetors to choose the right carburetor and tweak the carburetor in the exact same way, or the exact way that you want, so that when you press that gas pedal,
it's going to shoot flames out of the tailpipe.
Maybe that's what you want to express. But regardless of like the specifics of it, like it will end up expressing, like it will react in a way that you find sort of satisfying or beautiful. Is that art?
The folks that make custom motorcycles are artists.
What you're talking about now is approaching science and therefore art. Yeah, I think that like I think I'm a lot more open to the idea of labor being art or skill being an art, and that being an artist is not a lot different than being a mechanic. At the very least, I don't think that being an artist is superior to being a mechanic.
I think anytime you're doing problem solving, you're using creativity. I think there's something to your exploring an idea part that separates from just utility.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there is a good answer for this. At least I don't know if there's one that's going to satisfy me personally. I think that other people can land in different places than me, and that's a-okay. Dylan says we need answers. Oh my gosh, Carrie says check out Decotora in Japan. They make their semi trucks into these crazy decorated showpieces.
Yeah,
those are beautiful.
Yeah.
There's like there's a whole culture in India too of making
the same
like
thing.
beautiful trucks. I always wanted to give some farmer a custom painted grain combine with flames on the side.
Yeah.
Gavin says, I would say you can maybe argue that as long as you can distinguish between the handiwork of different people, there's a level of art to it.
Oh.
I think that is very interesting. Like there's a voice to it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's a really interesting idea. Like, what I like about that, Gavin, is that it sort of goes back to this idea of if it's an expression of your humanity, then it's art. Like if you have a way of changing a carburetor that somehow expresses who you are, and I don't know how to change a carburetor, so I don't know how this would actually play out in real life, like in practical terms. But if you had a way of expressing, of doing something that sort of expresses your humanity in the process,
or makes someone else feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's ways too that you can do, you can perform a task that makes you feel human and fulfilled. Is that art? If it explores the world around you, I don't know. There was a thing.
Or the world within you.
What?
Or the world within you.
Yeah, yeah. I was watching an interview with Brian Eno, like at least probably a year ago. And he was asking that question where he was like, what is art? And he did not have a good answer for it. And I don't know if I have a good answer. But I think thinking of art as a type of science, thinking of art as a process, thinking of it as a way of being a human being and exploring your world and yourself is, I think, a useful way of thinking of art.
I can imagine a combine tractor with space and unicorns all over the side of it like a 70s van, and I want it.
Oh, Gavin, I'm glad you dropped by. Yeah, well, I mean, I sort of talked a bunch of bullshit for an hour, and I think I have expressed a lot of the ideas that are in my head. And I think that a lot of the ways that I think about, the way I think about art today is not going to be the way I think about art tomorrow. And I think that's good. I think that's the great thing about art, is that it doesn't have to be one thing. And it doesn't have to be explicitly defined in order for it to be good. But I think the big takeaways, like I was saying a second ago, is that the reason why AI art I find so offensive is because it doesn't do any of these things. And these are the things that I think are important about art. People have been debating this for years. At least 4 years they've been debating it. Do you want to see, actually, if we want to keep going, I'll show you some of my sketches from Spain. This is the sketchbook I grabbed. I brought a bigger sketchbook, but it was too big, so I found an art store and I grabbed this guy.
Hi, Allison.
Hey, Allison, what's up? For me, it's about intention. Yeah, that's, I think intention, AI does nothing intentionally. I think that's very true.
Yeah.
All right, so let me show you some of these. This is when I am doing signings in foreign countries. I often have to ask people to write their name when I make out the book to them. Especially in the US, people don't really get excited about making out a book to them. I should make it a more important thing when I do it, though, where I ask them like to make it out to them personally. Thanks for coming by, Allison. It's great to see you. But especially in Europe, like a lot of people who come to signings, like they want something explicitly for themselves, and that's I think that's great. But with accents and language barriers, it's always nice to have them write down their name. So and speaking of my bad spelling, I managed to misspell
your own
Jesus.
Last name. Oh, Jesus, really?
Which, if you don't know, is spelled like exactly like Jesus. So I managed to misspell Jesus.
You've misspelled your own last name before.
I have misspelled my own last name. In fact, well, I'll show this in the end. So at the convention, they had a green room. The show floor at this SDCC Malaga was overcrowded and miserable. So I didn't spend, I spent as little time there as possible. But they had a green room for their guests, so I ended up spending a lot of time there. And did a couple sketches before I got into it. And one of the things about when I'm sketching, I tend to draw on the left hand page so that I have somewhere to rest my hand. But it means that if I'm going to use both sides of the paper, I end up flipping this thing. So it's a little bit of a, it might be irritating to watch me flip this sketchbook over. So these are the chairs that they had in the green room, as these guys. And when I did a signing at a booth for a store called Cmic Stores, they did a bunch of signings, and Diego Vargas was there, and I just met him at the signing, but he had a really cool book about the video game industry in Spain, where he interviewed tons of video game creators, and it was really cool. So I did a little sketch of him. This was somebody who was in line for a signature. This is Javier Quintas, who was also signing while I was signing. I didn't know this at the time. He just seemed to have a cool face. He's some sort of a bigwig television director in Spain. But he was very nice. And then here's back in the green room, just the backs of people chit-chatting. And this lady laughing. And this was the table with sodas on it. Kind of a funny drawing. These were a group of drivers out in the back. And then I sat down and drew some trees. Parc de Malaga. And anytime, man, everywhere I went in the, well, not everywhere, but a lot of places I went in the city, if you stopped in the shade for half a second, these little tiny flies would like start to really bug you. So this was like another little garden park. And the Alcazaba Castle, it's like a Roman fortress all over this hill there. It's pretty cool. And this was a line of tourists, or a group of tourists all lined up. Drew them for a little while. And this was cool. The main avenue right in front of my hotel had these giant trees. I don't know what kind of trees they were. This one in particular I stopped to draw because it had this sort of metal piece down here that I assume is designed to hold the tree up and keep it from falling like into the street, like the street was on the other side of it. And then these were people sort of in the Old Town area getting gelato. Yeah. A little bit of architecture and some scribbly people. Some more tourists doing stuff. This is pretty light. The Santa Iglesia Cathedral. Very pretty cathedral there, right in the Old Town section. And a horse. They had there was a bunch of horse-drawn carriages that ran around down by the bay. And then this was when I was in the airport on the way home. Some guys sitting around looking at their phones. A lot of guys with backpacks. I liked this bag on top of a little roller suitcase. And I wrote this down. This, I think, was the highlight of the whole trip. Was having breakfast with Simon Bisley and a couple other people. And I was trying to explain to Simon why I have a hard time using acrylic paint. And he said, "You are a fiddly little fucker, aren't you?" And honestly, I couldn't say no. Thanks, Allison. I've only done a single international show in Canada. I'm dying to do shows overseas. They're really fun. I'm still very COVID cautious, and I was very nervous about going to Spain, and it was totally worth it for me. I'm going to Italy at the end of the month for Lucca Comics Fest.
I'll look up the dates right now.
And that one I'm a little bit nervous about because of the government shutdown and what that's going to do with air travel this month. So we'll see. Put it in your bio. I know, I was thinking I should put this on the back of, like, when I have quotes from people about my books. You're a fiddly little fucker, aren't you? I like that you don't fill up each page. I always feel intimidated because I feel like I need to fill up every page. Yeah, no, it's funny. Like I have different sort of modes of working in a sketchbook, and when I'm just out sketching like this, it sort of results in kind of an ugly sketchbook, but really fun. The real, like, again, like I kept saying when I was talking about what art is, like it's like the process that's what's important. And this is like just such a nice way to explore a place, is to take a little sketchbook, go to the place, sit down, and like really try to observe where you are and what you're looking at, and putting it down on paper is the tool used to help facilitate that observation.
Lucca Comics and Games is in Lucca, Italy, from October 29th to November 2nd.
There we go. If you're in Italy, come say hi. Yeah, I have heard, Gavin says, heard amazing things about Lucca and Lake Como. I had heard that Lucca was really good, but just today I was like, I wonder what it's like. And I looked up on YouTube videos of it, and it looks like really similar to Angoulême, where it sort of takes over the whole town, and it's like a lot of outdoor.
Oh, wow.
Like booths and tents and stuff like that.
That sounds great.
I'm very excited to find out what it's like. Being too precious about your sketchbook is a slippery slope to not drawing. That is legit. That is so true. Mark wants all his favorite artists to go to Angoulême at the same year. Going there is big on my bucket list. Yeah, that would be fun. Gavin says Lucca is a medieval village. Oof. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I always feel like I need to have a book before doing any international shows. Yeah, like, I don't know. I'm incredibly fortunate that like both Spain and Lucca. Like Spain, I got invited because of the Harrow County board game, which, if you didn't know, there's a Harrow County board game, and they wanted to have part of their programming be about board games, but because it's a Comic-Con, they wanted the board games to work together. And the company that published Harrow County board game, Off the Page Games, that's all they do is board games based on comic book IP. So they brought us out. Matt Kint was there. Matt Kint has a game through Off the Page Games also. So yeah. And in fact, I got this pen. This is awesome. This is a promotional Off the Page Games pen. Oh, look at this. It's a normal pen. But apparently if you're playing the Harrow County game, there's a secret card in it. You can use this to raise a ruckus. Give the tree one shake. Then give this pen to one of your opponents. Dun dun dun. So good. And then the back is like an ad for the other games that they have. Mind Management, Core of Discovery, and they have a Grendel game coming out. So if you like board games, there you go. Oh no!
Oh no, it doesn't go back in.
It's not going back in. God damn it. Oh, there it goes. Whew. So I thought that was cute. Oh, so I was saying that I got invited to Malaga because of that, and then Lucca, they're bringing me out because of the Italian publisher of Harrow County is bringing me out. Yeah, just really lucky. I like all of my travel is because of comics, and it's wild.
Someday we'll have enough money that we can travel without it.
I don't know. Keith says that his Comic-Con banner did the same thing as my pen. Oh, nightmare. Well, I think that's it for tonight. I think we cooled down. I think we figured out everything we ever needed to know about art. And the next time someone tries to tell us that AI is making art, we can tell them, no, it's not.
Just an end of conversation
No,
there.
it's not. Yeah. Like there's stuff about that AI actress,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's like, no, that's
She's
one,
not
it's not an
acting.
actress.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm actually doing New York City, NYCC, and Baltimore back to back this year. So Shalvi and I are staying in Manhattan and taking the train down to Baltimore. Oh, that sounds really fun.
Yeah.
I've been to New York twice, and only once for a comic convention. I would like to go back. Every time I go to New York, I'm just shocked at how nice the people of New York are.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to be gone for that long. Yeah, that would be. I was thinking, I need to be like logging off for the night, but I was thinking when I was flying to Spain, where I was just like, this feels like a waste of carbon dioxide.
Mm.
It was just like so much fuel, and I was like, it would be nice if we didn't fly, if I could take a boat to Europe and then do a tour of Europe and do a year of comic conventions in Europe and then come home. That would be awesome. That's like how they did it in the olden days.
Yeah, and you'd have to have a big giant trunk full of all your art supplies and carry your drafting table around.
Yeah.
So you could continue to work during that year.
Yep.
Or
that's how you do it. You have a big old steamer trunk.
It's a big steamer trunk that converts into a drafting table.
Yep, exactly. Art cruise. Oh, except I wouldn't do an art cruise.
That would be an art cruise.
It would be an art cruise. God damn it. We all need to charter a boat. Yeah, that's what we need to do. And we'd all have to get typhoid. Maybe we could get vaccinated. I never get to actually go out and do stuff when I go there for cons, so having the 3 extra days will be fun. Yeah, that's going to visit the Kubert. Oh, that's awesome. Man, I have been dreaming about the Kubert School of Comic Book Art since I was, I don't know, since the first time I noticed those ads in the comics, which I must have been like 10 or 12.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
It would be great to go there one of these days.
How often, when you got the TV guide, how often would you do the little turtle drawing?
That wasn't for the Kubert School. What
that
school
was for another school.
That was for another art school. I never did it.
You never did?
No, never did it.
Always tried to draw the turtle in his little newsboy cap, but it ended up making me feel like, oh,
I'll never be a good artist.
I'll never get into this school.
Oh, that actually just reminded me, something that I've been putting in my back pocket for doing comic book cool downs is doing the working out the Marvel tryout book.
Oh, yeah.
I have one of those, and I haven't ever done that. That would be fun.
That'd be fun.
Okay.
The Art Institute. Yeah, thanks, Gavin.
All right, well, thanks for hanging out with me while I did a weird live stream. I hope it was fun for everybody. It was fun for me to talk about, and it's fun to hear your feedback. I think, I don't know, it just feels like in spite of being an artist, where I make art literally all day, every day, I never feel like I talk about it enough.
And, I mean, you didn't have it down packed. It's not like you think about it and put it to your thoughts to paper.
Yeah. Or try to express them to other people.
Yeah.
Like this, yeah. So it was really fun. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you guys. So like go out there and tell the people you love that you love them, and I love all you guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next Friday.
Have a nice weekend too, y'all. Stay cool.
Bye.
Bye.